All right, here we go. So, my life story. My life story is somewhat interesting. Um, I had a great sense of awareness starting when I was a child, um, and I guess that's what people call being intelligent. And well, because I was intelligent, it made me complacent to just rely on this intelligence and avoid doing really hard work. Um, at the same time, I realized that I guess, it's how people understand autism, to where if parts of your brain are numb, you can really be focused, super focused on certain other parts of life. So, the idiot savant, so to speak. That has some truth to it. Um, so, the thing that's different is that when I discovered what the ultimate truth is, because that's the only reason I went to college and tried to study like a European classics curriculum, because I wanted to find out like what the ultimate truth is. And when I did find it, when I was 21 years old, it was this practice of Falun Dafa or Falun Gong, which teaches, in my own words, that the fundamental principles or nature, fundamental quality of the cosmos and of all things, the origin of all things, is this nature, this characteristic of Jen Shan Ren, which is truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. And what my personal experience of it is that you have to cultivate yourself consciously. And because I was so intelligent, so to speak, I was more interested in the theory of it than the practice. Because like I was looking at it from the perspective of academics, that's what was stimulating me, learning something new. As opposed to really cultivating myself according to truthfulness, compassion, forbearance, Jen Shan Ren. So the way I understood it was very much theoretical. This is just my experience of it. And when I realized that just being theoretical isn't good enough, I realized that there was a real strong resistance internally to actually doing it and putting it into practice. Around the same time, I realized that it was really difficult for me to just live a normal human life because I was obsessed with academics and learning new things. And when I found out that there's nothing new to learn, there's nothing new under this, there's nothing any more new to learn because it's all just one book that contains the complete teachings, it made things difficult for me because my stimulation in life was gone. Up until then, my stimulation in life had been to learn new things and experience new things. But here I had the fundamental truth of the universe, right? And it wasn't about experiencing, it was about doing, which leads to new experiences, but that's not important in of itself. And because it was so difficult for me to just live a normal life, I ended up getting a diagnosis. I ended up seeking mental help and getting diagnosed with bipolar 1, I think. Bipolar 1, manic depressive. So what I'm trying to say is that for me, self-cultivation was a lot harder than for most of other people that I know that took up this practice of Falun Gong. Many people aren't able to take it up because the requirements are pretty strict, but as far as the people that did take it up, when I compared myself to them, I saw that my cultivation path has been much more arduous because for me everything was about theory. Like if it theoretically makes sense, it had to happen. Whereas it's not about theory, it's about doing. Or the only way things will happen in real life is if you do them. And because of the fact, because this was so much harder for me to do things, just generally speaking, their cultivation itself was also much harder for me to do. And so I remember taking a walk down the street by my house and thinking that what I need to do now is get mental help. But there are thoughts that are in your mind sometimes that aren't your true thoughts, and you're not able to overcome them unless you just close your eyes blindly and just do what you're supposed to do. And at that point, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, which is to get mental help and to stick with it, to stick with my medication. So I went down the path of doing things that were selfish. And surprisingly, when you do that, when you indulge your selfishness, you will get stuff from it, but it's stuff that is not rightfully yours, and in a blink of an eye, you lose it. And moreover, you'll get more karma, which is what happens when you do bad stuff. You'll get more karma, and then in the end, it's going to make it even harder for you. It's kind of like a short-term fix. Like if you short-term fix for drugs or alcohol or tobacco. In the short term, it'll make you feel better, but in the long term, you won't gain anything from it, and it'll make you all that much worse, whatever problem it is that you're trying to solve. So that's what happened with me. That's what happened with me basically. And now looking at it, I'm able to say that, okay, I made that mistake when I made it. It went on for a period of time, and things that got done. But now that I recognize my mistake, I think that being that we're still here, we still have a chance to cultivate, being that our life hasn't ended. The universe, the principles of the universe can still guide me, and my life can still be rearranged according to these principles. It's easier said than done. That's just saying it, obviously. But that's pretty much it. So for me, it entails taking things just one step by step, one day at a time. It's still really hard. But instead of looking back and complaining, like, oh, why is my life so hard? I wish I had done something different at this time. I wish I had done something different at that time. I don't think there's any use for that, because those were tests that I failed, but life still goes on, and this is still a test which I can't overcome. And at the time, it was a test that I just saw that I'd fail, and I did fail it. But it was my choice. It was my choice for sure. But at the same time, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't my own thoughts back then. And actually, I didn't realize that they were not my own thoughts. I wasn't that experienced yet. From the very beginning of my cultivation path, there were thoughts in my mind that turned out not to really be my own thoughts. Thoughts for pursuit, for zealotry, for gain, selfish gain, like fame, to be famous, to be better than others, to be looked up to. All these things were inside of me, and they weren't my thoughts, but I took them to be my own thoughts. And so yeah, I just couldn't reckon myself to calm down and to really devote myself to A, being mentally healthy, and B, carrying on the path that I was supposed to carry on, which was not to go out and try to get all these things for myself, but really just to conform to society, in which case a person like me does need to be on medication, and it does allow me to think and act straight. Without the medication, I just get overwhelmed by all of these thoughts that aren't me, and that's all that I have. The medication puts them away, and then I can see, okay, this is me, this is not me, and then I'm able to actually resist them and eliminate them bit by bit. Before, I was at a certain plateau and I couldn't go any further because I was just completely surrounded by those thoughts. Had I done something different, obviously you could say that I could have had a different, I wouldn't have had so many tribulations, but at the same time it was really intense, and those tests really were hard to pass. So I hope that makes sense. Bye.